Welcome back, friends and scoundrels, to Horror in the Hills. I'm Bran.
Robbie. Sarah.
And I'm Lynne.
And this is Movies with My Monsters, where most of the time I watch a scary or horror movie with my children and we talk about it. Today we have special guest Mommy. So, top of the things for you. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that you're supposed to do. Rate and review if you're listening to a podcast version of this. Yeah, because I don't have social media, so that's enough of that then. So, what did we watch today?
Krampus.
Krampus, because it's almost that time of the year. So, what did everybody think of this movie?
I thought it was good. It feels like a real thing that could actually happen, so it makes it a little more scarier.
And which way do you feel that it's something that could actually happen?
Because families do often get in fights like that, and sometimes things feel like they aren't quite normal.
Because you're always told, be careful what you wish for a reason.
Yeah. When all of your wishes are granted, many of your dreams will be destroyed. Robbie?
I thought it was good. I like it because the two dads go out looking for whatever her name is, I forget. And when they go back to the truck, it's destroyed, and when they go into the house, there's a little gingerbread man and the crack in the chimney, and
when they go into the house where they're searching for the daughter?
Yeah. And later in the movie, we see the gingerbread man again. And we also see when Krampus is coming down, we can see that the chimney he's cracking.
So you like a lot of the setup stuff?
Yeah.
Lynn?
I think it's all right.
For a scary movie?
Yeah. It's scary. It's got definitely very projected jump scares, and it's a little very silly, but it's all right.
I enjoy this movie because it is a lighthearted
It
holiday
is enjoyable.
Scary movie. There are plenty of horror movies out there that deal with Christmas time, and it can sometimes be difficult to merge those two worlds together. And this is one that I think does it well enough, mostly because it does rely on that lightheartedness of it and kind of the silliness. It's written and directed by Michael Dougherty, who also did Trick or Treat. And, we did forget to do a quick summary of the movie. So, family getting together at Christmas, as they often do, oftentimes with some turmoil involved, and a young boy struggling with his personal Christmas spirit, and how that ends up affecting everybody else in the family. Boom. Nailed it. Did everybody find it entertaining?
I think it was entertaining. I didn't quite catch the lightheartedness and silliness in it.
It starts with fighting in a shopping center. It's got gingerbread men as one of the bad guys, which are adorable and laugh while shooting you with a nail gun. That's silly.
Right? Lightheartedness doesn't necessarily mean goofy or anything like that. It's just the tone of the movie itself isn't as in depth as, say, like It or
Or dark.
like It Was, and what's another one? Or like the Paranormal Activity movies, where it's very, very serious about what the scariness is and what the situation is. Did you find it entertaining, sir?
Yeah. Because Max wants his letter back, and then he starts fighting over it, and there's a fight in the mall, I think, and the Jim and Two Bad Men shooting a nail gun was, and just made me think I hope you have spare ammo. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it entertaining because this movie knows exactly what it is and isn't ashamed of that at all. And those are oftentimes the better movies because they're not trying to be multiple things at once.
I also like many of the actors in this movie.
I do like a lot of the actors in this movie.
They're entertaining actors.
The adult ones, anyways.
Yes.
I don't really know many of the children actors. Another part of the reason why I found it interesting is how well it's paced. There's always something going on that's either story driven or action or atmospheric, kinda. There's always something to keep your attention.
Yes and no. Like, I agree with you up to a point. At the end, I think that bit becomes unnecessary and it starts to drag.
Put a pin in that.
Put a pin in your face.
Just as long as he keeps that in place. Rhymes. You think it was a good story?
Yes, I think it was a good story. Nothing's too sudden, and it all makes sense. Other than they would probably have gotten frostbite in negative 20 degrees.
Assuming that's what it actually was.
They addressed the frostbite.
But he actually got it.
Uh-huh.
Howard
did. Said, look at that. That's frostbite. That's only 4 minutes of exposure. Which is funny because he was making fun of what's his name about being a Boy Scout, and that's something that a Boy Scout would point out. Not some guy who thinks protecting your family only comes at the end of a barrel. But they did address it. You might have missed it, and that's okay. Good story.
Yes.
Anything else? Mommy, did you think it was a good story?
It's a pretty good story. I like the dynamic and conflict between the various family members. It's general and typical of your family conflict, a la National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. But I like that. It's got a bit of a
realistic feel.
Yeah, and it adds something to it, like, because the little boy Max just wants Christmas like it used to be, and the general typical family dynamic like that is common in the older Christmas movies.
Yeah.
I think it adds just like an extra layer to it.
And the meminess of it.
Yes.
Overall, because meme doesn't necessarily have to be an internet thing. That realistic setup that we get in the beginning helps build the tension, or can help build the tension a little bit later in the film. Because this is a real world thing that everybody experiences and deals with and sees. And then we're going to add this fantastical element, but because this part of this movie is real, it establishes that the rest of that could be real, which makes it fun. But it at the same time, one of the other things that I like about it is, and we'll get into that here in a little bit deeper, but in the movies that he's written and directed that are his own passion projects, this and Trick or Treat, so not a lot, traditions seem to be a big theme, and a little bit of cynicism sprinkled in there. More heavily with this one, and that's where the opening comes in. And the fighting of the family dynamic. I want to add a little bit to mine also, because I was actually just piggyback off of yours. um, it's a good story because it's essentially a very simple story. Yeah, there are layers to it and there's complexity to it, but they're there for the story to happen rather than, some of the stories like Batman versus Superman that have to add all these different elements and try to tell 4 different stories at the same time. Like, this is just one. Kid's upset about how people don't have the Christmas spirit anymore, and he's worried about becoming cynical, and he's trying to hold on to that and ends up losing it.
That it's a simple story with pretty much just the family. There's like not outside influences of neighbors or what have you and other things that come into consideration.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need everybody else's story, like the 2 separate families, their stories. It's everybody's involved in it. It's just this isolated moment in their time period. Do you think things were set up well?
I do think things were set up well. Robbie's pretty much got all the examples already. Like with the fighting in the mall and then how it cuts to them fighting at home.
How the fighting at the mall introduces the family because they're in the fight and they come and break it up, and that creates a transition.
It also sets up the tone of the film, or the overall messaging of the film. Anything
And
else?
with the gingerbread man and the cracks in the chimney.
Yeah.
Well, it's not cracked, it's a hole.
I like the setup with all the little things. The random bag of presents that's left on the doorstep, and how that's how the smaller villains get inside the house, the gingerbread man, and, well, they might still come through the chimney, but like your Jack in the Box and the bear, and Omi says that, don't let the fire go out, letting you know that that's going to happen later, but talking about how much ammo they have. Do you have any examples?
Of what?
Things being set up well?
The traditional Christmas music chords, just short bits of chords. Like, I believe when they're getting in the snowplow truck, there's a chord from Silent Night before Mom's dragged under.
At the end. Near the end.
Yeah, but it happens all throughout of it. There's just a chord of a traditional Christmas song before something happens.
And then Jack in the Box and...
Oh, it's first set up with the Jack in the Box too, with Beth when she's underneath there. The Jack in the Box, that one plays Christmas music before it does its thing, and then from that point on, there's always just a chord of Christmas music before.
like the opening line or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember my music terms well enough.
Couple bars.
Yes, bars. Do you have any setup stuff, sir?
I think it's set up well because back at the beginning, that's full presents. They bring it in, and like your mom said, that might be how the monsters get in. And Krampus has a big bag, and it's full of all sorts of monsters.
Yeah.
And the presents that one of the moms was rewrapping, they start shaking and moving around a little bit.
I think this kind of fits in here. I like how the characters are set up, because it doesn't spend a lot of time lingering on getting every little bit, but I forget what Ben's name is in the movie.
Tommy.
Tom. How you get enough of he's engrossed in work a lot, so he's not home very much, he travels a lot, and you get that in a couple lines of dialogue, and the mom is concerned with how her family looks to other people, versus what might actually be happening, which I don't even think it's that bad of a household overall. Like, it's obviously not perfect, but she's trying to present this perfect as image. Trying to present a perfect image. But the aunt, it looks like Martha Stewart threw up in here. And how just generically conservative Howie is, or Howard. And Linda just kind of goes along, his wife. But, I mean, they do love each other. It's not like she's just there to make kids for him. And, just to support him. They very clearly have their own form of healthy relationship. And you just get all those little bits, just enough for everybody to know who they are and why Max feels the way that he feels. Well, we kind of talked about this a little bit already a couple of times. Themes. Were there any specific themes that you guys might have picked up on your own?
No.
Homemade is better than store-bought.
Always. But, I mean, that actually goes into, like I said, with Michael Dougherty, he seems to have a thing with talking about traditions. And making cookies and desserts seems to be a tradition that Omi has, especially with Max, but she tries to keep everybody else involved because that's part of the Christmas spirit, right? Mm-hmm. That's something that a lot of people do. And it, you see with a lot of the other traditions that happen, like the putting up the tree and decorating everything else and whatnot. And I think this gives you a little bit of some of these things are just kind of autonomous actions. You do them just because it's Christmas and it's what you're supposed to do.
Ooh, the candles is another tradition.
And the one ornament on the tree that had the two sisters as kids and not Linda says, I don't know, it just seems like something Mom would have done.
And then, like I was just saying with the cookies, those things that actually mean something and that are trying to be kept alive. Because, we do these traditions to keep the spirit of some things going. So that way we don't forget about them, or it also helps bring us together a lot of times.
But candles is another tradition because I learned in school that they would put candles on the tree to decorate them. Mm-hmm.
That's why we have the Christmas tree lights. Because it, in effect, does the same thing, but much safer. But candles also have deeper traditions with pagan rituals and, well, it was also just the general means of lighting so long ago. What else is there for traditions? I think that's kind of all it really touches on. Because it's dealing more with how they're just going through the motions just because. Like you see her putting up the family pictures with Santa. And there's a series of them, so it's something that they do. But at what point did it become something that they just do because it's what they do? And it lost its meaning of we're a family and we want to show that we're a family. Which is one of the other things I was kind of picked up on, and this plays a little bit more into the cynicism, really. Where cynicism is a type of pessimism where you just don't believe in humanity much at all. That nobody really does good things for the sake of doing good. They do them for their own self-interest. Is that good enough?
Yeah.
And that's actually the biggest theme of all. That's why it opened with the fighting at the mall and the family fighting and a lot of the comments that the aunt makes that nobody likes, and a little melding of things here. How Toni Collette's character, the main mom, doesn't really want to do family with them or Christmas with them, but she has to because it's her sister and family and you're expected to. And they're just completely different worlds.
And maybe it's about trying to find things you have in common. And I like throughout all of it, are forced to find things they have in common. Both dads will do anything to protect their families. Both moms.
And how they have to meld their two worldviews in order for that to happen.
Yes.
Because very few things in life are black and white, are one thing or the other. And that's one thing I think horror movies should be helping us to understand, is that you actually have to combine things a lot of times in an effort to be more successful in an endeavor.
Because they have to work together even though they don't want to a lot of times?
Because it's more of, just thinking about something in one way isn't enough. Usually, if one person picks a plan and everybody goes along with it, a lot of people end up getting hurt. But when they talk about it and everybody has their input and they all collaborate, or what's the other word?
Because one person can't necessarily see all the angles and doesn't have all the information. One person can't have all the ideas and consider everything.
Well, so within the context of this movie, we get that Tommy's family doesn't like guns, right? That they might be a little bit more on the left side of the political spectrum. And Howard's family is all about guns, right? And they're on the right side of the political spectrum. And Howard makes fun of Tommy for being an Eagle Scout and a Boy Scout, and thinks only sissies do that, and it's not really a man's thing, that the only way to protect your family is with a gun. But when they're out searching for Beth, Tommy's given a gun, doesn't really want to use it, but he takes it anyways because he knows that it's something that could be beneficial to them. And he uses it to help protect Howard. So he lets down some of his principles, if you will, or some of his own beliefs, because at the end of the day, this is actually a little bit better. And after Howard's bitten by the snow snake, snowworm, whatever it is, because we never see it, it's Tommy's Boy Scout training is the implication. That's what I'm implying or inferring into it, is that his training as a scout enabled him to do the first aid and to help him get out of that situation beyond just using the gun. So it's this combination of ideologies that actually helps them be successful in that moment, not one thing or the other, because they're both right in their own way.
And ultimately, all differences aside, when it comes down to it, you're family and you have to survive and protect each other. Survive together and protect each other.
Yes. Even if you don't like each other. Atmosphere. What do we think about the atmosphere in this movie? I want to kick this one off. I like when you can see the shift in atmosphere when Beth's out walking in the street, because she's only gone theoretically a few minutes at this point because she hasn't gotten to her boyfriend's house, and you can just see the fog get thicker and the color change around her and become a little bit subdued and grayed a little bit more. Like, all right, this is really kicked off, because the storm and the snowman weren't enough.
See, the part I like best about that is she's walking into the wind and you can see it blowing everything around, but when it becomes its darkest point, the wind stops.
I missed that.
Huh?
I said I missed that.
Yeah, right before Krampus shows up, the wind is stopped, and that's what makes her ultimately stop walking, because that's what causes her to realize the change.
That something's not quite right.
Yes.
And it's, in world, it doesn't seem to be something that anybody really notices. Because at that point when she walks out, I think we're supposed to maybe late morning. I would say. What about you?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not really given a time frame, but that's what I would say. All right, atmosphere.
I didn't really pick up on a lot of atmosphere. other than that one moment you were just talking about. I picked up on that you can hear the something in the snow moving around, but you can't see it. And then Tom just starts shooting at the snow. And then when Tom starts shooting, it pops up out of the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the progression of the cold. When Beth first goes out, we see the other houses and they're covered in snow and the wind is blowing out. But by the time the dads go out, the houses have like large icicles all hanging from them. And within the house, up in the attic, we've got icicles, and parts of the house are starting to get that flash frozen look that the boyfriend's house had.
Yeah. But you were talking about the music, that you got the first 2 or 3 bars maybe of a song, but not just that, like it would just dead silent stop and linger there for a moment before something would happen, which is your musical cue to set up that to force your brain to go, oh, something's gonna happen, build tension.
Those are my favorite.
I found a thing with atmosphere. In the house that they go into to look for Beth, it's like white all over and there's cracks and it's trashed. And the knife in the gingerbread head man. It also gives this feeling that Krampus hates Christmas. Because
he's the shadow of Christmas. The shadow side.
He doesn't hate Christmas. With Krampus, he, like, I'm sure you've heard from other kids at school, if you're bad, Santa gives you coal instead of presents, instead of toys, right?
Yeah.
That was shifted from Krampus. It used to be either Santa visited you, or, well, in certain parts of the world, or Krampus visited you. If you were bad, on the light end of it, you would get switched with a bundle of sticks. If you were a really bad kid, Krampus took you and away to his place.
Krampus land.
Where you would be tortured, like dragons eating your feet. What were our favorite parts of the movie?
I kind of like the goofy little gingerbread men shooting a nail gun bit.
Yeah.
Because it's silly. I like when, after Max falls through the pit of orange smoke, he gets the bell that says Krampus's bell. And it says you won on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that when Omi tells her story, it's animated and you see the shadow Krampus and it gives it that old world storytelling feel while she tells her story, rather than just showing her standing there telling the story.
Or, a real, like a memory kind of.
Yes.
Gives it this more detached feeling.
I also like at the end the foggy lighting to show that they're inside a snow globe.
The dreamy light quality.
Yes. I was thinking more through the glass of a snow globe. I suppose you could have.
Well, before you know they're in a snow globe, though, it's very dreamy like.
Yes.
I just like how fun this movie is, because it really doesn't take itself too seriously. It's something we can enjoy as a family. It could be one of our traditions. Least favorite things. Do you want to kick this one off? Just get it off your chest.
I don't like the ending. I think it should have ended after Stevie is taken and Max is all alone standing there in the snow and Krampus comes up and hands him the bell and he's holding it and you've got the voiceover from Omi saying, "He didn't take me, he left me alone with the bell as a reminder of what happens when you lose the Christmas spirit." Cut to black. And that should have been where it ended. I don't think we...
bleak.
I don't think we... Because it cut to black in the movie, too. I'm not saying you should cut to black. It did cut to black, and it should have stopped there, not come back on again. And here's more.
Yeah. And then... Yeah, the ending was a little. It just got cheesy. Because it still technically has a very bleak ending.
Technically. I think it should have ended at the fade to black point.
Ooh. Or still have him wake up and then he has a snow globe too. That would have been interesting. Because then he gets his family back. But you'd have to have the confrontational part.
Yeah, it's just better to cut to black. That's where it ends.
Yeah. No, the bigger reason why the ending doesn't work is because nobody ends up learning a lesson, really.
Yeah.
Because by Max confronting Krampus and saying, I take it back, I want them all back, he's not indicating that he's actually learned that the Christmas spirit needs to stay alive. It's just about him wanting what he wants.
Ooh, you cut to black, silence for a moment while it's black, and then the start of the Jack in the Box Christmas Carol, roll credits.
Anyways, you guys, what was your least favorite part?
There wasn't really a part that I didn't like. The ending bit after it cut to black was a little unnecessary. But there wasn't really a part that I didn't like.
Why did you find it unnecessary?
It's interesting to show what hell is like, but it doesn't really give anything to the story.
I guess it does bring full circle to be careful what you wish for, because he got what he wanted.
Oh yeah, because we did say that earlier.
We did. He got exactly what he wanted for all of eternity.
I didn't like where the bell sinks into the snow and the giant pit of orange fog forms, and
Why?
because I think it's weird for what's his name?
Max?
No.
Krampus?
Yeah. I think it's weird for Krampus, who would usually just take it away from him to give it back to him.
I was just trying to understand what you were getting at there.
He thinks it's weird for him to take the bell away just to give it back at the end.
Mm.
He takes the bell because Max hands it to him. And that's why he gets rid of it. And he gives it back to let him know that he's in hell.
That you didn't escape.
And it unlocks everybody else's memories, because up until he pulled it out of the box, no one else remembered. Makes sense?
Yeah.
What was the scariest part?
The scariest part. I think the scariest part was when the gingerbread man came to life after Howie took a bite out of it.
Yeah? Why?
Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't expecting it to come to life, really.
So it jump scared you?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, dude?
The scariest part is when the Jack in the Box, the huge one, it's scary because it kind of reminds me of Pennywise.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The way his jaw unhinges
Yeah.
and opens up.
Mommy?
I agree, that's probably the creepiest part. None of it was scary.
Yeah. As far as scare factor goes, I think the part where the Jack in the Box is eating Jordan. You can see it going down.
Yeah.
Alright, and that's that. Thanks for listening. I don't know what we're doing next. Or I suppose I know what you did last summer will come out after this. And I don't know what we're doing after that.
It will come out after this. Trick or Treat will come out after this.
Probably. Anyways, toodles.